He's all over the place, to be honest. He's all over the place. Griffey is one of the guys he's looked up to for a while and spoken to and learned a few tidbits from here and there. So then, I just tweeted out the picture. It was him, Matthew Boyd, and Tucker all hanging out with Ken Griffey Jr. And for PCA, I think for Tucker and Boyd, it was, okay. Right. But for PCA, it was something special to just hang with Griffey. He's talked to me about it before, and he tries not to geek out on Ken Griffey Jr., but that's what he ends up doing. So I'm interested to talk to him later about the exchange today.
I think they had an opportunity to discuss baseball and other things in Japan as the season started as well, right, Jess?
Yeah, exactly. That's when he first sort of got to know him. I think he had met him before, but then he really got to know him, and that's what I mean. I mean, he's passed on some tidbits. I'm trying to remember because I talked to him about it like 2 months ago, and it was just this smallest detail that Griffey gave to him. Now I can't even remember off the top of my head here, but that's the beauty of great hitters, right? It's not like, hey, your swing needs to be longer. It's the smallest little detail, and PCA has incorporated it. I just can't remember what's
worked.
It's worked, right? So it's really cool to see those guys together with Griffey.
What's it like for PCA and with the national media now? I mean, he came out of the New York system, so they're all well aware of him. But is this kind of like a coming out party for him in the sense of everyone starting to catch on to his story?
Yeah, it really is, Peggy. You know how these media things go, right? And so they had media day this afternoon earlier in the day, and just like Super Bowl media day, every player's at a table and a podium. You know, I hung out with Schwarber and Baez and all the Chicago guys for a while. Then you go over to PCA. He's got it cordoned off, not him, but the league cordoned off. Just the same setup Shohei Ohtani had. That's PCA. Wow. Cordoned off.
Wow.
Larger state, larger like podium, the whole thing. And so everyone's surrounding him. Great personality. You know, this is a thing where just like Super Bowl media day, you're asking, what's your favorite color and what's your favorite food? And PCA is a natural for all those, kind of goofy, fun questions. So people are loving on him today. But yes, it's kind of like the national coming out party. Ohtani's been there, done that. Freddie Freeman, hometown, from Atlanta, that played in Atlanta. But here's PCA, new on the stage, and he's treated kind of like royalty.
And he, Jess, as you know better than all of us, he is very respectful of the game, very respectful of his peers and those that he plays with and against. How has he handled the moment?
It's incredible. I actually flew in yesterday morning and happened to be on the same flight as his parents. Now, I had met his dad before. His first time I met his mom. So humble, so kind, so kind of like wide-eyed in a way, even though they're like Hollywood actors. I mean, this is all so new to them. And even for PCA, just wide-eyed but humble about it, I mean, everybody wants a piece of him. And I had a moment with him, just one moment earlier, and he may join you guys tomorrow. And he's just like, I'm just doing what they tell me. I'm just going where they tell me, and I'm happy to do it, but I want to take it all in, and it's hard to do both of those things. But I'm sure he'll get some quieter opportunities here once the fans, the media calm down. It's just him and his teammates in that dugout and in the clubhouse. But, yeah, there's just a humbleness to him that you don't necessarily see on the field because his game is so aggressive. We've talked about this before, but then I meet his parents and you see where it comes from.
It's interesting. As humble as he is and saying, I'm just doing what they tell me to do, I saw one of the interviews that he had done, and he talked about Caleb Williams. And he talked about, they said, wow, you're the man in Chicago. And he said, no, that's Caleb. And so it's interesting that he's actually pays attention to that spotlight. And I'd love to ask him more about what he's learned from how, if the Bears are everything in Chicago, how Caleb Williams gets treated by the media, the fans, everything, the city, what he's taking from that and what he's learning from it. It's really interesting to see that he really is taking in more than we might be expecting.
Yeah, what is really interesting, Peggy, and I think you kind of are on it, is, okay, Caleb came ready-made, superstar, attention galore. PCA was a first-round pick, but he was traded while he was hurt in single A. He was he even said, out of sight, out of mind. He makes his debut, even as a first-round pick, it's kind of unheralded in some ways, right? Fast. We know he'll run around the outfield. But then this thing happened starting in mid-April. And so the fact that it came so fast is what's just shocking and so interesting in how he's handled it. And, yeah, I think he got all sorts of questions today at Media Day sort of about this kind of thing, just being a star in Chicago. And I didn't know that he said that about Caleb Williams. But, yeah, it is interesting. You know, when you get to that level, there's only a few people that can relate, and Caleb's probably one of them. And I'm not saying PCA is, you know, completely arrived for the next 10 years, but in this moment, he's as popular as anybody in the sport outside of maybe Judge and Ohtani, and maybe even including them for all I know.
He's actually on SportsCenter right now doing an interview.
Yep.
So, yeah, I know it's a great story, and he's a wonderful young man and a great player, so I know why everyone wants to be around him. All right, Jess, let's talk about this Cubs team that heads into the All-Star break. I believe, what is it, a half game behind the number one seed in all of the National League. They take 2 or 3 from the Yankees in New York. Good way to head into the break.
Oh, I love the Saturday and Sunday wins, especially the Saturday win coming against Max Fried, who, developed the blister, but the Cubs got to him, and then the blister appeared. So let's not blame the blister. I love those last 2 wins against the first place, or, a winning team. They're in second, the Yankees, on the road. People have been wanting a little bit more of a sign that their offense was going to beat up a good pitcher. They did that on Saturday, and then they followed up with a series win on Sunday. You mentioned a half game behind the Dodgers for best record, but only 1 game ahead of the Milwaukee Brewers.
Right.
I mean, we got a dogfight on our hands in the second half. I said this to Cap and Jay Hood, or Dion and Jay Hood this morning, that think about how well the Cubs have played, almost flawless in a lot of ways, offense, defense, special teams. Now, power, stealing bases, and yet they're just a game ahead. I mean, can you imagine can the Cubs play much better than they just did? I mean, sure, there's maybe a winning streak in there that they haven't had, a longer one, but they've played pretty darn good, and they're only a game up. So this is going to be really fascinating, both the end of this month with the trade deadline and then the final 2 months. Those Brewers just won't go away. So I think it's going to push Jed to do even more than maybe he thought a month ago. Their playoff chances are still at 96, 97%, but you want to make sure you're good in case of injuries, because I'm not sure playoff percentages take into account the potential injuries in August and September.
Brewers are 30-12 since May 25th. How about that?
It's Memorial Day, yeah.
Are any inclination, a small market, and they handle themselves in a small market way, and they've won a ton, but financially they handle business differently, don't they?
The Brewers, absolutely.
Yeah.
They're not going to spend. Yeah.
I was going to say, so with that as the backdrop, is there any chance that they look at where they're at and decide to kind of deviate from previous plans financially? Because, and tell me if I'm wrong, we were talking with everyone today that, if they decided to try to upgrade, they could actually probably make a greater impact because there would be more. What they need is bats, not arms, and they could probably attain that more easily than the Cubs can probably attain difference-making arms, correct?
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to deviate. There's 3 wild cards. If they don't win the division, they can always get in that way. The problem with the Brewers not spending is there's a ceiling to their success unless they get really fortunate or lucky in the playoffs. Playoffs are about slugging, right, for the most part. Mm-hmm. Slugging and home runs cost you money. They don't have sluggers like that. That's, I think, in part why they keep losing in the first or second round. Everything has to go exactly right for that kind of a team to advance far. And so I don't disagree with you. What they need is probably a little bit more slug. I don't think they're going to find it. There's going to be too many teams interested in Eugenio Suarez or whatever sluggers are going to be available. So the Cubs are going to beat them at the trade deadline again. That doesn't mean they're going to beat them in the division, but they have more wherewithal to do that. I don't see Milwaukee deviating that much, to be honest.
And maybe the break here, the All-Star break, will cool off Milwaukee.
Yeah,
I mean,
so.
Seriously, that's what you have to hope for at this point because 7-game win streak they take into the break.
Yeah,
I mean, red hot.
It's actually been fascinating. The Brewers have had longer winning streaks and losing streaks. The Cubs have not had either. They really haven't gone 6 or 7 in a row in either direction. It's just different ways of getting there, but the Cubs have been far less streaky than a lot of the good teams out there.
I think I read today that they haven't had more than a 3-game skid. The Cubs haven't all year. Is that right? They haven't lost more than 3 in a row?
Yeah. They haven't, and even that was over the course of 2 series. They have not been swept. Just one of 2 teams in a 3-game series or more. Obviously, they got swept in Japan. That doesn't really count. But your Reds, Tommy, your Reds and the Cubs are the only 2 teams that have not been swept. So there's good news there, but sort of bad news, I guess, is they haven't had the extended winning streak. I don't know why. It's happened that way. Maybe because they don't have the most dominant starting pitching, which allows you to go 2 times through the rotation. To create a 6 or 7 game win streak. Just hasn't happened, but doesn't mean it won't.
Jess, what do you make of the dust-up with the addition of Mizorowski to the National League team despite only 5 starts?
At first, I didn't like it. I'm more okay with it now when I hear that so many pitchers turned down the invitation. The Phillies were just out of line because their pitchers were asked, and they turned them down. And other players have turned them down, and other pitchers have jumped off. Now, look, could they have invited Drew Pomerantz as a middle guy? Yeah, they could have. But what would you do if you're MLB? Jacob Mizorowski is a phenom. He's going to draw a few eyes, and I do not. That's not hyperbolic. That is the truth. He will draw some eyes. There's a wanting of him out there, and I don't think you could say that about a middle reliever they could have taken. Now, again, you can't select him or elect him originally, but as a late replacement after other people turn them down, I don't have a problem with Mizorowski being here.
It's the type of conversation there when you look at the opposite, what USA Basketball did in inviting Diana Taurasi instead of Caitlin Clark. They lost out on all those eyeballs watching them in the Olympics. And so now when a league does say, hey, it's one of the last invites. Let's invite someone that's going to bring some eyeballs. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways.
And it was the last edition. I don't have a problem with it, especially when I see that Zach Wheeler bowed out and Ranger Suarez said no and Christopher Sanchez said no. I mean, what are the Phillies screaming about when all their guys bowed out? So I don't have a problem with it.
So what do they do with Matt Shaw? He's hitting 0.37 in July after hitting 193 in June. Do they just live with it because he's so good defensively?
A couple weeks ago, I was adamant that the answer to that question was yes. I'm starting to feel differently now. It's so hard to break in a rookie in a contending situation unless he's just a really special rookie. And Shaw doesn't have power to, he can't run into home run. Like his swing has to be perfect and his game has to be perfect. And it's like when Ian Happ broke in like 17, he wasn't very good. Contending team. It's really hard because you just want to be able to play free and loose. He can't do that. He's got to be playing winning baseball. Much easier, for Shane Smith to break in with the White Sox this year, right? Non-contending situation, free and loose, and he's here in the All-Star game. I have a feeling that, he could move into a backup role. Now, if he continues to struggle at this rate, Tommy, a couple weeks after the break here, we'll see what the trade deadline looks like. I'm not saying they're going out and getting the best third baseman on the market, but Ryan McMahon of the Rockies or someone like that, I think it is a possibility. I didn't think that a couple weeks ago. I'm starting to think that you've got to fortify where you can get better. Cubs can only get better one position on the diamond, just one. And it's third base, and it's just offensively, to be honest. So I guess I wouldn't be shocked either way if they let him stay there and start or found someone and he turned into a back.
How much airtime does TV Jesse get tonight?
Well, in about 5 minutes, I'll be on ABC 7.
Nice.
And then again in an hour. So that's the extent of my TV time.
Wait a second.
My boys Jeff Pass and Alden Gonzalez are doing the sideline tonight.
I don't get any ESPN Jesse tonight?
No, only ABC 7. My big flaw, I don't speak Spanish. So
there's time you can learn.
There is time. Well, some people say I don't speak English, so it's
well done.
So Alden Gonzalez, who covers the Dodgers out west, he speaks Spanish. He gets to do the home run derby tonight, and God bless him for that.
All right, we won't hold you any longer. You know, got to get to the important television duty. Anything you need to tell us before we cut you loose?
I think they're going to get 2 at-bats tomorrow. That's what I've heard from I could be wrong about PCA, only because he's a rookie. I think Tucker gets 2 at-bats. I wouldn't be surprised if they both got 2 at-bats, though they're hitting lower in the lineup, so you just never know. Yeah. So we'll see. And, Matthew Boyd's not going to pitch. He opted out. I didn't love that, but, he's getting ready for the second half. I still think he could have thrown an inning, but he's not going to pitch tomorrow night.
Yep.